You wake up, the sun is shining, the birds are singing, life feels quiet, maybe even peaceful. But somewhere deep down, there's a part of you that knows it won't always be this way. You don't know when it's coming. You don't know how. But one day, the storm will arrive. A phone call that changes your life. A betrayal that shatters your trust. A decision you weren't ready to make. A moment you didn't prepare for. And in that moment, who will you be? Most people don't want to think about that. We're raised to believe that life should be safe, predictable, comfortable. That if we're kind, if we avoid conflict, if we just keep the peace, life will go easy on us. But life isn't interested in your comfort. It's interested in your growth. The truth is, life is not safe. It's not predictable. It's not fair. And pretending it is might be the most dangerous choice of all. Because the world isn't always a garden. Sometimes it's a battlefield. And if all you know is how to water flowers, you won't stand a chance when the war comes to your door. This is why the ancient Chinese proverb strikes like lightning through the soul. It is better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. It sounds poetic, but it's a warning. If you're not prepared for life's intensity, physically, emotionally, mentally, then peace is an illusion. It's a fragile. One crisis, one unexpected hit, and everything can fall apart. We think that peace is the absence of conflict. But real peace, lasting peace, only exists when it's protected by power. Not the power to dominate, but the power to endure. Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, "It's not things that disturb us, but our judgments about them." And our judgment is often shaped by the stories we tell ourselves. That we'll never be abandoned. That we'll always be healthy. That the worst-case scenario only happens to other people. But the Stoics knew better. They trained for adversity. They practiced hardship before it arrived so they'd be ready when it did. They didn't wish for war, but they knew not to live as if it would never come. And the irony is, this mindset doesn't make you more anxious. It makes you more calm. Because the person who has trained for chaos does not fear it. Think about it. Would you rather be the kind, gentle soul who falls apart under pressure, or the strong, steady soul who remains kind despite the pressure? That's the difference. A warrior in a garden can enjoy the flowers because they are not afraid of the thorns. A gardener in a war lives in constant fear because they've never known how to fight. We've raised a generation on comfort, instant results, emotional insulation. But the moment life throws real pain, real challenge, real pressure, the system cracks. And it's not because people are weak. It's because they were never taught to prepare. You cannot wish your way into resilience. You cannot manifest your way into courage. These things are trained, forged, chosen, and when you live in denial of life storms, you're not choosing peace. You're choosing vulnerability. You're hoping the war doesn't come instead of becoming someone who can face it if it does. So let this land. Life will not always be soft. People will let you down. Plans will fall apart. And sometimes you'll be the one who breaks. But if you've trained for it, if you've built the inner strength to hold your ground, then even in the middle of the fire, you'll know who you are. And that changes everything. Stay with me, because in the next part, we're going deeper into the warrior within you, who they are, why they matter, and how to wake them up before it's too late. What does it mean to be a warrior? Forget the armor. Forget the battlefield. Strip away the movie scenes and the swords and the shouting. we're not talking about violence. We're not talking about aggression. We're talking about the archetype, the inner truth. A warrior is someone who is trained mentally, physically, emotionally to face difficulty with courage and clarity. Someone who does not panic under pressure. Someone who does not fold when life gets hard. Someone who stands tall when others collapse. But here's the key. The warrior doesn't seek war. They seek peace, and they're ready to defend it. Carl Jung spoke of the warrior archetype as something ancient and instinctive. It lives in all of us, men and women, young and old. It's the part of you that rises in a crisis, the part of you that says no more when enough is enough, the part of you that stands firm even when the ground is shaking. You were born with this energy, but in modern life, most people bury it. We're taught to be nice, to go along, to keep the peace at any cost. We're taught that strength is toxic, that toughness is dangerous, that it's better to be agreeable than assertive. But repressing the warrior doesn't make the world safer. It makes you more vulnerable, because when difficulty comes, and it always does, your survival depends not on how gentle you are, but on how prepared you are. And the warrior is preparation in human form. Think of the samurai. They were not brutes. They were philosophers with swords. They studied poetry and strategy. They meditated and mastered combat. They practiced Bushido, the way of the warrior, where honor, compassion, and skill were balanced. The samurai didn't want to fight, but they could, and that ability gave them peace. Bruce Lee once said, "It's better to be a warrior in a garden than to be a gardener in a war." Same principle. He trained his mind and his body not to hurt others, but to protect his center, his values, his discipline. A true warrior doesn't fight because they're angry. They fight because they are aligned with something deeper than ego. And that's the difference between power and chaos. A barbarian lashes out. A warrior steps in with clarity. A barbarian is reactive. A warrior is intentional. So when we speak of becoming a warrior, we're not saying you should go looking for conflict. We're saying you should stop fearing it. You should become someone who can handle it, so you don't have to run from it. That changes how you carry yourself. Your posture changes. Your presence changes. You walk into a room and people feel it, not because you're loud, but because you're grounded. You've built something inside yourself that doesn't shake easily. Jung believed that when we don't integrate this warrior energy, it becomes shadow. It leaks out in passive aggression, in self-sabotage, in rage you can't explain. But when you consciously develop it, when you welcome the warrior into your personality, you become whole. Not harder, not colder, just more complete. Because life demands all of you, not just the kind part, not just the intelligent part, but the part that can hold the line when everything is falling apart. And here's the beautiful part. When the warrior is awake within you, you don't just survive, you protect. You become someone others can rely on. You become the calm in the storm. You become the one who keeps the peace because you've trained for the war. So ask yourself this. Have you been avoiding your strength out of fear? Have you buried your warrior because someone told you it was dangerous to be powerful? And more importantly, what would change in your life if you reclaimed that part of you? Because in the next part, we're going to explore what happens when you don't. What it looks like to be a gardener in a war, and why that is far more dangerous than any warrior could ever be. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine you're standing in a battlefield, but you've never trained. You've never been tested. You don't know how to defend yourself, let alone protect anyone else. You're holding a watering can instead of a shield. You're carrying hope instead of preparation. You're a gardener in a war. The chaos around you doesn't care how kind you are. It doesn't pause because you're good-hearted. It doesn't slow down just because you're peaceful. It comes anyway, unforgiving, fast, relentless. This is the reality most people face when life gets hard. They've spent their lives avoiding conflict, choosing comfort, staying soft, thinking that's the path to happiness. But when life demands strength, they realize they have none. It's not their fault. We're taught from a young age that avoiding struggle is a smart strategy. We're told that discomfort is bad, that confrontation is dangerous, that strength is scary. And so we grow up hoping life will be gentle. But life isn't always gentle. Life has sharp edges. And when you enter a season of war without the mindset of a warrior, the damage is deeper. Because you don't just lose, you collapse. This is why so many people are overwhelmed today. Not because they're weak, but because they've been lied to. They were told that positivity alone is enough. That if you think good thoughts, bad things won't happen. That if you avoid conflict, you'll never face it. That peace is something you can manifest without discipline. But Viktor Frankl, who survived the Holocaust, knew better. He said, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." That's what war does, whether literal or emotional. It forces you to either evolve or be broken. And if you haven't built the foundation before the storm hits, you won't have time to build it after. That's what makes this metaphor so deadly accurate. Because when you're a gardener in a war, everything good inside you gets threatened. Your kindness becomes vulnerability. Your dreams become fragile. Your peace becomes a house made of glass in a world full of stones. It's not that being gentle is bad. It's that gentleness without strength is easily destroyed. And in the absence of strength, fear takes over. You second-guess yourself. You tolerate things you shouldn't. You let others walk all over you because you've never practiced standing up. You say yes when your soul is screaming no. You shrink because you've forgotten how to take up space. You play small in the name of humility, when in truth, you're just scared, and life can smell fear. The world doesn't reward fragility. It doesn't create safe spaces just because you need one. It meets you with intensity, and only those who have trained for that intensity can thrive within it. So don't wait until the war arrives to wish you were stronger. Don't wait until the pressure is on to realize you have no tools. Don't wait until life breaks you to remember you had the choice to build armor, spiritual, emotional, mental armor long before, because you will face hardship. You will be tested. You will be called to rise. And if you haven't met your inner warrior by then, the garden you built might not survive. But here's the good news. There's another path. One where you still plant seeds, still cultivate beauty, still build a peaceful life, but with hands that are ready, with eyes that are clear, with a heart that knows how to stand in the fire without burning. In the next part, we'll step into that version of you, the warrior who chooses peace not because it's easy, but because it's earned. The one who walks through the garden armed with wisdom, grounded in strength, and unshakable in purpose. Let's meet them next. Now picture this. You're standing in a quiet garden. The air is calm, the breeze gentle. Birds sing. The earth is rich with life. You're surrounded by peace, but you are not soft. You're strong, not in a loud, aggressive way, but in a quiet, steady way. Your body has known challenge. Your mind has known pressure. Your spirit has been forged through trial. You are not afraid of war because you've trained in peace. You are a warrior in a garden. This is the ideal state of being. Not one extreme or the other, but balance. True power is not about dominance. It's about discipline. It's about control. It's about having the ability to act and choosing when and how. Lao Tzu, the ancient Chinese philosopher and father of Taoism, wrote, "A man who conquers others is strong. A man who conquers himself is mighty." This is the heart of the warrior in the garden. They are not driven by fear. They are not consumed by violence. They are not waiting for a fight. They are simply ready. And because they are ready, they are calm. Because they are capable, they don't have to prove anything. This is the energy of quiet confidence. It doesn't boast. It doesn't threaten. It simply is. Think of water. Bruce Lee's famous metaphor. Be like water, he said. Water adapts. It flows around obstacles. It yields when needed. But under pressure, it can cut through stone. It's gentle and fierce at once. That's what it means to be a peaceful warrior, to have the heart of a poet and the spine of a soldier, to be rooted in your values but flexible in your methods, to have the strength to fight, but the wisdom to know when not to. This is not just philosophy, it's survival. In relationships, in careers, in emotional storms, the person who can hold tension without reacting wins. The person who can speak clearly under pressure leads. The person who can endure discomfort without breaking grows. When you're a warrior in a garden, you don't flinch every time something threatens your peace. You don't overreact. You don't collapse. You don't panic. You assess. You breathe. You respond. You are present not because life is perfect, but because you've trained yourself to stay grounded even when it's not. Taoism speaks of this balance constantly, yin and yang, softness within strength, stillness within movement. You don't have to choose between peace and power. You need both. And when you cultivate them together, your life becomes incredibly resilient. You stop depending on outside conditions to feel safe. You stop needing everyone to like you in order to feel worthy. You stop fearing the unknown because you've prepared your heart, your mind, and your hands. That garden? It thrives because the warrior guards it, not with paranoia, not with anger, but with quiet presence and daily discipline. So if you've been avoiding your strength, if you've been afraid that becoming powerful would make you cold, hear this. Real strength doesn't make you hard. It makes you whole. Because when you're rooted in who you are, you don't need to control others. When you've trained your mind, you don't need to avoid challenge. When your spirit is strong, you can walk through a storm without losing your peace. So here's the question. How do you build this kind of strength? How do you become the warrior who can tend the garden without ever needing to draw the sword? That's what we'll explore in the next part. It's time to train the warrior within. Strength isn't something you're born with. It's something you become by choice, by challenge, by discipline. To be the warrior in the garden, you must first train the warrior within. And that training doesn't begin in battle. It begins in the ordinary moments, in how you wake up, in how you speak, in what you tolerate, in the decisions you make when no one is watching, because true strength is built in silence, not when eyes are on you, but when you choose what's hard, even when it would be easier to quit. The Stoics knew this well. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome and student of Stoic philosophy, wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." That is training, not in theory, but in action. Every day you are either becoming more disciplined or more distracted, more resilient or more reactive. So how do you train the inner warrior? You start with your body, because the body is the first battlefield. Do you move with strength? Do you breathe with control? Do you treat your body like a weapon or like a weakness? Physical training is not about looking good. It's about knowing that you can hold discomfort, that you can push when it hurts, that you can follow through when your mind screams to stop. When you teach your body discipline, you send a message to your mind, I am not fragile. I do hard things. Then comes the mental training. Every time you resist a negative thought, you're training. Every time you replace self-pity with action, you're training. Every time you silence the inner critic and move forward anyway, you're building mental armor, because the mind, left untrained, becomes your enemy. It tells you stories that make you small. It exaggerates fear. It invents excuses. But the trained mind, it sees clearly. It focuses. It commands. You also train through intentional hardship. That means doing things that challenge you on purpose. Cold showers, long runs, difficult conversations. It's not about masochism. It's about resilience. You simulate adversity, so when the real thing arrives, you don't fall apart. And then there's emotional training. This is where the warrior becomes wise, because emotion, when untrained, becomes chaos. But emotion, when understood, becomes power. When you feel anger and don't explode, that's strength. When you feel fear and keep moving forward, that's strength. When you sit with grief instead of numbing it, that's strength. Emotional mastery isn't about pretending you don't feel. It's about feeling fully without being ruled by what you feel. And all of this comes down to one thing: practice. The warrior in the garden is not born. They are made through deliberate choices, tested habits, and a vision greater than their mood. They meditate not to escape, but to sharpen awareness. They journal not to vent, but to reflect. They set boundaries not to be harsh, but to protect peace. They show up, especially when it's hard, because deep down they know comfort is fleeting, but character is forever. And that character is not built by avoiding life's battles, but by preparing for them before they arrive. And the irony is, the more prepared you are, the less you fight. The more trained you are, the more peaceful you become. The more control you have over yourself, the less the world can control you. So if you've ever felt weak, out of control, or easily shaken, good. That's where it starts, not with shame, but with the decision to stop hoping and start training. Every day is a choice. Let life happen to you, or become someone who shapes how you respond to life. And once that decision is made, once you start building that quiet, grounded, unshakable strength, everything changes. But strength is only the beginning, because the warrior's purpose isn't just survival. In the next part, we'll go even deeper into what all this strength is for, because you weren't born just to fight. You were born to protect, to create, to build something that matters. Let's talk about that. So you've trained, you've built strength, You've faced yourself in silence and come out steady. But here's the question that changes everything. What is all this strength for? You didn't build it just to survive, not just to stand through the storm, not just to say, look how much I can endure. You built it for a reason. Because warriors are not made just for war. They are made to protect, to build, to create peace, and then to guard it. This is what most people never understand. They think strength is about proving something. But real warriors aren't out to prove. They're out to serve. They know that the greatest use of power is not destruction. It's creation. The warrior in the garden trains not because they want to destroy, but because they want to grow something worth protecting. Maybe it's your family, maybe it's your community, maybe it's your vision, your values, your future children. Maybe it's simply your own peace of mind. Whatever your garden is, it needs the warrior, because without protection, the garden dies. Without strength, beauty is vulnerable. Without boundaries, peace is invaded. Nietzsche wrote, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." That's what separates the warrior from the brute. Purpose. The brute wants control. The warrior wants clarity. The brute fights to feel powerful. The warrior fights because they refuse to let what matters be taken or corrupted. This is about sacred responsibility. You aren't just building strength to look tough. You're building it so you can become the guardian of what matters most in your life. That means showing up even when it's inconvenient. It means protecting your peace by saying no to distractions. It means leading by example when everyone else is complaining. It means defending your boundaries without needing permission. And it means remembering always that strength alone is not the goal. Strength must be directed. It must be anchored. It must be led by something deeper than ego. Lao Tzu spoke of this in the Tao Te Ching. He who knows others is wise. He who knows himself is enlightened. He who conquers others has force. He who conquers himself is truly strong. The ultimate conquest is not external. It's internal. It's about learning to discipline your own impulses, to face your own fears, to guard your heart while still keeping it open. And that's not a one-time achievement. It's a daily commitment. Every day you choose to be strong when it would be easier to be passive. You choose to stay clear-headed when emotion could easily take over. You choose to speak truth when silence feels safer. This is how the warrior protects the garden, not with violence, but with values, not with fear, but with presence. So ask yourself, what is your garden? What are you building, protecting, growing? Is it a peaceful home, a healthy mind, a legacy of integrity, a life of meaning? Because when you're clear on your garden, everything changes. Training isn't just discipline, it's devotion. Boundaries aren't harsh, they're loving. Power isn't control, it's stewardship. The stronger you are, the more gentle you can be. The more capable you become, the more grace you can offer. Because now, you're not trying to survive, you're building something. And every day, you show up to protect it. That is purpose. And that is what the warrior was always for. In the final part, we'll tie it all together. You'll walk away not just inspired, but transformed. Because once you understand this truth, not just with your mind, but with your soul, you'll never move through life the same way again. So now you understand. Strength without purpose is dangerous. But strength aligned with peace, grounded in clarity, led by meaning, that's power in its highest form. It's better to be a warrior in a garden Because the warrior is prepared. The warrior has trained. The warrior has faced their fear, met their shadow, walked through the storm, and come out alive. But most importantly, the warrior has chosen peace. That's what makes them dangerous in the best possible way. Because they are not driven by fear. They don't flinch in chaos. They don't need to dominate or control. They are calm because they are capable. They are kind because they are unafraid. And they are free because they have built a life worth defending. The gardener in a wall, they hope things stay safe. They panic when they don't. They're at the mercy of the world. But the warrior in the garden, they shape the world, starting with themselves. They live from the inside out. They don't need guarantees. They don't need perfect circumstances. They have trained to carry strength wherever they go. And here's the most powerful truth of all. You can become that person. You don't need anyone's permission. You don't need to be born special. You just need to start where you are. You start by making the decision to stop waiting for life to be easy and start becoming someone who can handle it when it's not. You begin to train your body, your mind, your heart. You build discipline, not to impress, but to prepare. You create boundaries, not to push people away, but to protect what's sacred. You live with purpose, not to chase perfection, but to build peace. Because peace isn't passive, it's active. It's something you fight for, not with violence, but with vision, with consistency, with self-respect, with truth. So don't wait for a crisis to start training. Don't wait for the world to crash before you find your spine. Don't wait to become the warrior. Start now. And one day, when the storm comes, you'll walk through it differently. Not afraid, not broken, but grounded, ready, still. Because you will know that whatever happens out there, you've done the work in here, and no one can take that from you. So here's your call to action. Look at your life today. What's one area where you've been living like a gardener in a war? Where have you been hoping instead of preparing, wishing instead of training? Start there. And if this message spoke to something deep inside you, share it. Because someone out there is waiting to remember their strength, and your voice might be the one that reminds them. Drop a comment below. Tell me, what are you training for? What's your garden? And don't forget to like, subscribe, and join this growing tribe of people who are choosing truth over comfort, discipline over distraction, and strength over fear. This isn't just a video. This is a way of life. It's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. Train for peace, live with purpose, and carry your strength like a calm fire, quiet, steady, and always ready. We'll see you in the next one. Stay grounded, stay ready, stay awake.